After watching this interview, if you're still voting for Kamala Harris, well, I'll save that till the end. Let's check out some clips from last night's interview by Bret Baier on Fox News.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point.
Okay, yeah, let's get to the point. And the point is, you can't answer the question, at least not honestly.
Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
And I noticed that she didn't actually deny his statement that they let in millions of immigrants.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
No, she doesn't want more time to answer the question. She just wants more time to toss her magical word salad and try and get out of the question without actually answering it directly, like she does in every interview.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem.
It is a priority? Fixing the problem. Oh boy, yeah, you've done a number of things, all right. You've done enough. Recognized from day one that Biden overturned all of Trump's policies on the border immigration, stopped the building of the border wall, as well as enforcing illegal immigration, and just let them all through? Because that's what you did.
We have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties.
What good are penalties if you don't enforce them?
That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. Any
Border Patrol agents that I know of and that I've seen interviewed, they ain't supporting anything you've done or said, allegedly.
On fixing
6
it.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats.
It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country every year? The hell kind of bill is that? Trump had this all under control. We didn't need some fake symbolic bill stuffed full of Democrat pork, like allowing 1.8 million more illegal immigrants into the country. Oh my God, this woman. And of course, 6 Democrats voted against it, which, isn't a lot, but Bernie Sanders was one of them, who I know a lot of you on the Democrat side right now probably wishing he was running for president.
But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed.
They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Ooh, ouch. That had to hurt. God, these people just can't get out of the way of themselves.
So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Do you owe the families of those killed by illegal immigration an apology? Well, of course not. That would admit guilt. That would mean we're responsible, culpable. Not going to admit that.
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases.
Here we go.
There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true.
What is true? That you feel sorry that your administration's basically responsible? Which was the original premise of the question.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss.
Here we go again.
I'm so sorry for her loss, sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
There it is. Of course, it's Trump's fault. Trump had a solution and it was working. It's called enforcing immigration laws, arresting, detaining, and sending back illegal aliens. Oh, sorry, immigrants. I'm not supposed to say that. And securing the border with a border wall and funding to support Border Patrol to patrol said border wall. Oh, she feels awful. Yeah, I'm sure you do.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that.
Wait, now we're going to be honest? I think that's the first truthful statement.
I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear. I think we all are.
She takes no pride in what's going on with immigration right now. Well, you shouldn't, because it's largely your fault.
Let me just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Oh, Lester. Oh, silly man. How dare you ask me that question? You know I'm friends with the Clintons. You know, with that cackle, Halloween's coming up, and with just a little bit of green paint, a black hat, and a broom, aren't you the border czar? You sort of are supposed to oversee what's going on at the border. Folks, can you get any more slimier? I mean, asked a direct question by one of her own liberal media outlets. She gives her smarmy, sarcastic, condescending, oh, silly little man. I've never been to Europe either. That's what you want to vote for over Trump because of mean tweets?
That it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border.
Wait, you finally went to the border? 90 plus executive orders overturning Trump policies on the border and immigration that were working.
There's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said you've been, quote, a failure with border security.
Border Patrol Union just supported Trump. That tells you all you need to know.
Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it.
You do? You get how frustrated they are? You haven't seemed to get it for the last 3.5 years.
They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
I love how she talks about how she's so close to and endeared to law enforcement and the Border Patrol. The majority of them, they can't stand her or the Biden administration.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz.
I'm clear. Are you clear? I think we're clear. We're all clear. I want to be clear that you know that I'm clear. So let's be clear. Do you ever notice how that seems to be her number one pause? It gives her enough time to conjure up the next lie. Let me be clear. I'm going to lie right to your face.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available to on a medical necessity basis.
It's a law that already exists. You notice how she spins it. And now it's back on Trump. Well, number one difference is Trump doesn't support it. You do. And I'll guarantee you, neither does the majority of the American people.
My plans for our economy would strengthen our economy. His would make them weaker.
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
Okay, anybody who understands basic economics understands that tax cuts benefit everyone, because when wealthy people who own the businesses that we all work for and buy products from get tax cuts, they hire more people and they often pay higher wages. You tax them, their butts pucker, and they stop hiring. And prices of their products go up to cover for the taxes and the now cost of living. You see, it's a big circle.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of. Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Been part of most of the decisions that have been the biggest impact over the last 3 years, like the decision to overturn Trump border policies that were working. This woman is so stupid, she cannot get out of the way of herself. I mean, we have endless content of her on video pointing at the elephant in the room, which is her administration, and then somehow tries to spin it. Look, I want to be clear right here, right now, that I'm being clear. And in being clear, you need to know that everyone else needs to see that I'm being clear about the fact that I'm being clear about I'm not Joe Biden. Okay, but there's nothing you would change about what his administration has done to the country in the last 3.5 years.
And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
On one side of her mouth earlier, she's praising how wonderful Joe Biden is and how cognitive and how he's sharp as ever and doing a great job, and she supports it. Now, seemingly, she has to distance herself uncomfortably and make sure everybody knows that she's not Joe Biden, okay? And her administration is not going to be the same as Joe Biden. Yet she basically copy and pasted everything off the Joe Biden website to hers.
Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump.
Orange man bad! Orange man bad!
That has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based
Here we go. Here's the nice speech.
on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of.
Oh, can we just be nice? If we can all just be nice, we just need to be nice. Just be nice. Be nice, and it'll solve everything. Well, unfortunately, the truth isn't always nice.
Brett,
more than 70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
Orange man bad! Orange man bad!
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump.
Right, Donald Trump again. It's his fault. Let's see. He was in for 3.5 years of that decade, and thank God. Otherwise, we'd be even worse off.
American people,
If
people
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
The look on her face after that question.
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided, the
for
50%?
Listen,
Are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish.
We have to be nice. Ugh. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Orange man bad!
The American people, he's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within.
There is an enemy within. You. Far left, communist, progressive liberals have infiltrated our government. Now you're running our schools, universities, and education system. Yeah. There's an enemy within, all right. You should look in the mirror.
Talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
No, if anyone's going to turn the American military on its own people, it's definitely going to be the Democrat Party. I mean, they're already trying to modify the Posse Comitatus Act before they get out of power. Or maybe it's in hopes that they gain power. Then they can use it against all those non-compliant, mis- and disinformation, election-denying, anti-vax MAGA supporters.
He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest.
Nah, actually he's talking about the far-left, George Soros-funded, anti-American terrorist organizations like Antifa and BLM, who unleashed terror on our cities during Trump's last administration, who strangely disappeared and went away after Biden got in. Huh. Weird. Peaceful protesters. You know, like the ones you started a fund for to get out of jail.
For people stuck inside anywhere during this insanity, the sick, the elderly, the powerless, the experience was terrifying. Listen to this woman from Minneapolis.
How was last night?
Scary. They went straight to Office Max, the dollar store, and every store over here that I go to. I have nowhere to go now. I have no way to get there because the buses aren't running.
Some Democrats have openly embraced what is happening. Really, they don't have much of a choice. These are their voters cleaning out the Rolex store. These riots effectively are the largest Joe Biden for president rally on record. In gratitude for that, more than a dozen Joe Biden for president campaign staffers donated money to the rioters in Minneapolis, and then they bragged about it on Twitter. No Democratic leader can directly criticize what is happening right now, and in fact, some have joined in. Over the weekend, the Democratic Party of Fairfax, Virginia, which is an important Democratic organization, released the following statement on Twitter. We're quoting it. Riots are an integral part of this country's march towards progress. Progress. Burning buildings, tear gas, dead bodies, the screaming injured, criminal anarchy. To the Democratic Party of Fairfax, that is called progress. Celebrity after celebrity has weighed in to agree on social media. From his fortified compound, basketball star LeBron James has used his accounts to encourage more rioting. Bernie Sanders' surrogate Sean King has done the same. So has Black Lives Matter leader DeRoy McKesson. Colin Kaepernick openly calls for violence. Here's a quote. The cries for peace will rain down, and when they do, they will land on deaf ears, he says approvingly. Imagine shouting fire in a crowded theater, a theater with 325 million people in it called our country.
Peaceful protesters. Orange man bad! Orange man bad!
Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump.
The significance of that.
You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
The look on her face after that question.
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand.
She can't answer the question.
Two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Iran. Oh. The same Iran that your president, Barack Obama, flew billions of dollars of cash on a pallet over to Ahmadinejad? Oh, but Mark, that was money we owed them. Wait. So what? Do you understand who Iran is? Apparently Kamala Harris does now. Why would we give a country that's constantly threatening Israel and the United States, among other countries, any money? Ever? I don't care what we owe them. Not to mention all the sanctions they refuse to enforce on Iran, allowing all this money to flow in, which Brett Baer touches on.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go
that
the Iran regime
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Orange man bad. This is how stupid these people are, folks. The Republicans may not be the answer to all our problems, but I can guarantee you the Democrats are most certainly the cause.
And your policies.
Yes.
And that's why
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are...
Basically, she plagiarized and copy and pasted just about everything off the Biden website onto hers.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, if you're voting for this woman... Again, it's either for your abject hatred of Trump, which just means you're a hater, or you're irreversibly stupid. If you're a Democrat and you don't like Trump and you don't like Kamala, then just don't vote. But for God's sakes, don't vote for this woman. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you don't mind, make sure you subscribe and smash that like button.